Hi, welcome back, or welcome if you are new. Saving your own seed from your garden is such a rewarding process. And I have in front of me quite a large selection that I've saved over the last year or two. Some of them are still in their seed heads and they need to be cleaned and separated. Some of them I have already cleaned and they're stored in containers like this. Most of these are flowers. Some of them are still exactly as I left them from the garden. There is calendula here that has been sitting in the basement for, I think this is from the 2022 season, so a little bit long. They are likely still viable though. If you're used to reading seed packets, a lot of them will have sow by or best before dates similar to what you would get on food that you buy. But a lot of that is just to help keep track, and some seeds, yes, do stop germinating a lot quicker than others. But I have been planting tomatoes still close to 10 years after I bought the seeds. Now the germination rate goes down a little, but tomatoes are one of those where the seeds can last a really long time if they are properly stored. So these calendula seed pods, the seeds are really large and uniquely shaped, so they're pretty easy to spot, which is why I can get away with not labeling a lot of my seeds, because most of them do have a bit of a unique look and you can tell which is which. The calendula in particular, but this is where I tossed the seed heads straight from the garden and they've been sitting down there ever since. So I'd like to get them stored properly because they're taking up a lot of room right now. And these ones pull off of the stem pretty easily. So that's a quick process. There's no excuse to why I haven't done this. So calendula is a really nice cold hardy flower that I like to grow in the garden. Even if you're not going to harvest it and use it for anything, it's really nice. It's great for pollinators and cold hardy. Like I said, I've seen it continue to bloom after we had an overnight of about -5 Celsius. That's below freezing. Let's see, what else do I have here? Now some of these I have saved before, so I can attest to their viability and I know what to look for. These are bells of Ireland. They're a really interesting triangle shaped seed. Those are really unique. Calendula I've definitely saved before. Canna seeds are really interesting and they do grow well from seed and they will get a good size and they will flower. The seeds themselves are the size of a pea. And this is exactly what sweet pea seeds would look like too. Peas, garden peas that you would grow to eat, would be green. Sweet peas are the flowers, the pods of which are not edible. They tend to be black just like this. So these are the canna lilies that you would tend to see in the garden center. If you don't deadhead the flowers, you could easily end up with seeds like this at the end of the season. The germination can be a little bit tricky, but if you're up to a challenge, they're good to try. So if you're a complete newbie to saving seeds, there's a few things you should remember. I often get questions from people who ask if they can pick a faded flower and then get seeds out of those flowers. Well, generally once a flower fades, it takes 4 to 6 weeks before you can get viable seeds out of. Once the petals start to fade, the process of the flower making seed has usually just begun. What you're looking for is usually at the base of the flower will start to swell once the petals drop off, and that's where the seeds are growing. And once they've reached the proper size, the seed pod will usually start to turn brown and dry up. Sometimes in the case of poppy seeds, you can even shake the seed head and then hear the seeds rattling inside of it. That's not always true. But in the case of this canna seed pod, these would be at the base of the flower. These large sections would not be there when the flower is fresh. They would have developed after the flowers had faded. So you do have to put up with some scraggly looking parts of your plant if you're going to wait and save the seeds from them. But that's a good example right there. Same as the calendula. All of these seeds at the bottom of the flower are not going to be there until weeks after the flower has faded. A different example is this. I just happen to have some of these that I hung to dry. This is Green Drops Ornamental Grass. It's really nice, but you can see how all of these little green bumps, those are seeds. I have thousands of seeds here in my hand. Now, some of these would not be viable, but the seed pods that have started to pop open and have a little golden seed still stuck in here, I could probably grow these. I did actually leave some of these a little bit longer, I think maybe 2 weeks after I harvested these ones, and they are in one of these paper bags right here. So there are the green drops. All right, so we need to try to get the seeds out of these seed casings. Oh yeah, there we go. So that would be green drops, ornamental grass, nice little tan colored, very small seeds. So best option is probably to do that. Let's see how well that works. So seed companies would have large specialized machines that do this, but if you're a home gardener, this will do just fine. Oh, there we go. So the green is the chaff and the tan are the seeds. And I think I can see a lot more seeds than are showing up on the camera. And there's still quite a bit on the plant. Yeah, and if you're really picky, you could pick a lot of these off with your fingers. I'm not sure I'm that picky. Or I might just save this and sprinkle it somewhere out in the garden where I want these to grow later on. But if you're wanting to start these indoors, you'll want to clean them as much as you can. I think I'm going to put all of this back in the paper bag. That's pretty good. That is likely at least a couple of seed packets worth, and I would not have bought more than that. Once I get all these cleaned and organized, you know, all of this mess in front of me and this tray full of paper bags, I can probably get into a small box about this big. It's what we do in January, right? I don't know about you, but we tend to do a good deep clean, organizing, get rid of a bunch of stuff. That tends to be a January 1st kind of thing around here. And it feels really good to get the house neat and tidy before garden season hits, because once I'm outside for multiple hours a day, I do not do a whole lot of housework until the snow starts to fly again. So I'm getting sidetracked. Wait 4 to 6 weeks for your seed, and then to store them, they just need to be cool and dry. And cool does not mean in a freezer, as long as it isn't damp in your house. Here we're in zone 6. We're up in eastern Canada where it gets really cold. Our ground is frozen for months and the air is really dry in the winter. So anywhere in our house is going to be perfectly fine. I tend to keep them in the basement where it's about 14, 15 degrees, and in the summer we have a dehumidifier running in there. In the winter, it's bone dry. That is perfectly fine. I tend to keep my seeds in cardboard or paper because it's a bit breathable, but if you have mouse issues or you can't control your environment, that might not be the best option. If you're worried about dryness, keep your seeds near a dehumidifier for a couple of weeks and then seal them in this plastic container. I don't know where I got that. It's perfect for these foxglove seeds, and foxglove seeds is really small. There likely are tens of thousands of seeds in here. So this is sealed. This is perfectly fine. That means if the air is humid, that's not going to get at that. These little pink plastic bags that I have here, perfectly fine. You could probably get these at a dollar store. So I have a whole bunch of things here, and all of these I think I harvested last summer, not this past summer. I have, California poppies, Thai silk apple blossom. That's a beautiful color. I didn't grow those this year. Actually, I did. I think I had a few that self-seeded. Alliums, those I really need to start because I want more of those. Scallions, those are good ones, a little bit like green onions, but those particular ones are perennial here. Red California poppy, these are a perennial poppy, big giant flower heads. I forgot I saved those. This one is packed full, tens of thousands of seeds probably in this one too. Purple haze poppy, those are an annual, but a gorgeous one. And red Russian kale, all right. And this is a good example actually of brassica seeds all tend to look the same. So if those aren't labeled, you're likely to forget what you have. Brassicas would be like cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale. All of those seeds tend to look the same, as do those poppies actually. This is Lunaria. Lunaria is a biennial. It's hang on, I have some. Better known as silver dollar. Those seeds came from this. Look at that. I sold quite a bit of this, and this is what I had left over, not this past season, but the season before. So that reminds me, I need to start those because I didn't have any this past year, and I really missed them. So these seeds are fairly big and they are flat and they grow. Each of these little silver dollars would have had a casing on the front and back holding the seeds up against, this is basically the center. There would have been seeds on both sides held together, this is dusty, by a little papery casing on either side. But when you take all of that off, you get the seeds, and these are, they're shiny, a little bit pearly, they're really nice. These are just the random short branches and anything that was a bit of a weird shape that I didn't put into bunches to sell. But makes really nice decor and still looks great after a year and a half. Put that back, there we go. So, oh yeah, I do have it labeled too, it's just faded a bit. So Lunaria, even though I didn't see the label, I could tell right away what that was. And that just takes time. You know, if you save seeds, just even a couple of things every year, you're gonna get to know what things look like, and that's gonna help you remember from year to year. So there's a few things that I've never saved seed from before. These are, what are these? These are Tetra White Feverfew, I think. I'm not confident that I let the flowers sit long enough, but I do have some seed. I'm not counting on most of these, by the way, unless I've harvested and grown them before and I know they're going to work. Things like the Feverfew, I'm going to buy more seeds. I'm not sure those are seeds. They might be, and I might get seeds on some of these, but not others. If the petals are still attached, there we go. Those tiny, they look like little, they almost look like little spikes. I think those are the seeds. I need to go look at a pack of Feverfew seeds to try to remember what these look like, but I think there might be some viable seed in there, so that would be cool. These are Craspedia, and same thing, I don't remember what these seeds actually look like. It should be noted too that some things grown are sterile and don't produce viable seed, but that doesn't usually apply to things you actually grow from seed. It often applies to perennial plants that are grown from cuttings or tissue culture or something like that, that you would buy at a garden center. This one is, oh, I know what this one is. Celosia. This is Celosia. I don't remember the variety, and it's mostly, we call this stuff chaff. The stuff around protecting the seed, I can get rid of all of that, and if I move them over, there's a bunch of seed on the bottom. So even one packet of seed saves me about $5. I mean, this is a large bag. This is probably 10 seed packets worth right here. So if a seed packet is about $5, then that's 50 right there. This foxglove, this could be hundreds of dollars worth of seed. Now, I don't remember what type of foxglove that is, but I'm gonna go put a whole bunch in the shady area of my property that we don't use a whole lot because they are absolutely gorgeous. This one, which is Bells of Ireland, now there's an awful lot of chaff and dirt likely and dust. I'm gonna have to get rid of all that, but it looks like there's at least a couple seed packets worth in here. Same with the calendula, dozens of seed packets worth of poppies. I could have $500 worth of seeds right here. Now, I would have bought that much, so it's not necessarily going to be saving me that much, but that's what I have here. Now, this is a good way of harvesting seeds out of the garden. Because they're in paper, they're breathable. I couldn't really use all of my kitchen dishes. I definitely was missing a couple of these ones. This is phlox. It's an annual phlox, which grows smaller than the perennial type. Oh yes, there's a good amount of seeds in there. I want to look at this one, Chinese forget-me-nots. I had forgotten about these. Forget-me-nots are definitely unique because the seed pods are sticky. They'll stick to your legs and your shoes as you walk by. And these have not been broken open. They're sticking to my fingers. I'm going to snip the thicker stem off first of all. Maybe cut these into smaller pieces. Okay. This is a very homemade solution, but let's see. Now a rolling pin would do just as well. I'm not seeing any actual seeds in there. Ow! I just don't know. Oh, you know what? Those are the seeds. I think that did work. Yep, I think those are the seeds. They're groups of 3 together, and we're just breaking them up separately. I remember that now when I planted them. They look just like the regular wild forget-me-nots that tend to grow outside. So there we go. That did indeed work. So again, we're left with a lot of excess stuff, but that's hard to avoid when you're saving your own seed. But on a small scale, it's not that hard to just pick it out and get rid of it. If you're new to saving seeds, herbs are a really good place to start. A lot of the times with vegetables, you're going to harvest pretty much everything before it has a chance to set seed, so that might not be a good option, except tomatoes. Tomatoes are a good one. But herbs like dill, fennel, cilantro is a good one, parsley even, chamomile, that's another good one. Those are good places to start. And in the vegetable garden, if you have something like radishes or lettuce that bolts, it starts to send up a flower stalk, let it go, because eventually that flower stalk is going to make seed, and then you'll have radishes or lettuce for probably 2 years out of just one plant. It should be said too that some things cross so easily that the resulting fruit might not even be edible, and squash is a good example. Yes, I learned that the hard way. Not to say that it's necessarily going to cause negative effects, but it's not always going to taste good. So squash, I think, needs something like 300-foot radius to bring the risk of cross-pollination down to almost nothing. So unless you grow only one variety and you know that your neighbors aren't growing any other varieties, that's going to be pretty hard to do. All this information, though, is easily found even with a quick Google search. Just Google seed viability, cross-pollination, things like that, with the specific things that you're hoping to get seed from, and you can find that information pretty quick. Now, there are easier ways of getting rid of all that chaff too. If it was not really cold outside, like 10 degrees below freezing, I'd take this out and I just blow on it gently, and all of that little plant material is so much lighter than the seeds that you're going to blow it all away and you're going to be left with just the seeds. So I don't dare do that inside, but on a warm day that's not that windy, I suppose I could take it out to the greenhouse too, which I'm not going to do right now because we're starting to lose daylight. But that would work with almost anything. This celosia, there's so much more chaff than there are seeds. If you pour it, actually I've seen people do this on a windy day of just pouring it into a bucket like that. Not too windy, of course, but enough of a breeze where just doing that, the chaff would blow away and the seeds would fall into a bowl. I think that's called winnowing. So I think that's going to do it for today. We're starting to lose daylight, but those are the seeds that I have saved and now finally mostly organized. And I really hope that you will save some seeds from your own garden. It's a really good way to cut down on the cost of buying seeds every year. Even just a couple of things can make a massive difference. So I'm going to pack these up and bring them back down to the much cooler basement. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.